Tales of Jiminy Cricket. In Dutch, a story from Holland. Starring Pluto the pup. And here to tell you the story of Pluto's troubles in Holland is Mr. Jiminy Cricket.
Hello there, friends, most everywhere. This wooden shoe's what Dutch folks wear. It's part of the story I'm bringing to you. Would you like to listen? Or wooden shoe? I made a funny. Well, here's where the story started. A little town in Holland, right beside the sea. That big stone wall, called a dike, was to keep the ocean out. And if it ever broke, oh my, would there be a flood in Holland. Now, in this little town lived Pluto, the milk dog. His job was to pull a cart full of milk cans every morning, delivering milk to all the people. One place he went every morning was the mayor's house. The mayor's name was above the door, and down at the bottom was another little door that was there for a very good reason. Yes, this little door was especially for the mayor's little dog, Trixie. And every morning she somehow managed to open it just as Pluto came along. As far as Trixie was concerned, Pluto was just about the handsomest dog in all of Holland. But of course, she couldn't tell him what she thought. All she could do was give him a pretty smile. And Pluto, say, did he smile back at Trixie? Meeting her every morning was just about the best part of his job. Every day the same thing happened. First, he made sure that Trixie's dish was there on the ground. Then he stretched way back to the cart and got a can of nice, fresh milk. And very, very daintily, he poured it into Trixie's dish. Then Trixie would come out, sort of smiling to herself and pretending that this was all so unexpected. And Pluto was so bashful, he couldn't even look at her. So he just let on that he was pouring the milk by accident. But as Trixie lapped up the milk, then he could look at her and think what a beautiful dog she was. What a shame she had to drink from a common old dog dish. All of a sudden, Pluto got a wonderful idea. He looked around and saw something that would be perfect for Trixie's dish. And here's what Pluto saw. A whole bed of beautiful tulips growing right by the bell that was supposed to be rung if the dike ever broke and let the ocean in. So Pluto took his milk can and he filled a tulip right up to the top, especially for Trixie. Then little Trixie came tiptoeing over to the tulip, and very daintily, as a lady should, she drank up all the milk. And then, just because Pluto had been so nice, she gave him a kiss on the cheek. And Pluto, well, my goodness, now he knew he was in love. You could see hearts jumping all over like Valentine's. And Trixie? Why, she was so flustered and bashful, she ran for home as fast as she could go. And that's when things started to happen. First, Trixie put her foot on the rope of the alarm bell, and her foot got tangled in the rope, and she fell. And the bell started to ring. The bell that meant the dike had broken. All over town, people stuck their heads out of their windows.
Was ist los?
What gives it now?
Who is the bell ringing?
Pluto made the bell ring all the harder, because he came to the rescue to get Trixie loose. Finally, Trixie was free, and oh, was she ever grateful to Pluto. He couldn't say anything. He just stood there holding the rope. Suddenly, they realized they were surrounded by wooden shoes. They heard angry voices.
So, this was it.
Yeah, it was Pluto.
He was the rope pulling already yet.
They looked around and saw they were in the shadow of a big crowd. Everybody in town.
Pluto was trying to make a joke on us.
Yeah, that was it.
He was trying to make out the dike was gebusted.
And when Pluto looked up, he saw the mayor himself, with a face just about as friendly as a bulldog. Poor Pluto. He tried to pretend he didn't even know he was holding the rope, but it wasn't any use. The mayor said,
Don't Kopf of a dog. Don't you know yet it is verboten to ring the dike alarm unless the dike was gebusted? Raus mit you and your friend also. Leave our town at once, both of you. And if you ever come back again, it was too soon.
So down the road alongside the dike walked Pluto and Trixie. From beyond the dike, they could hear the ocean waves pounding fiercely against the stone wall. Oh, me, oh, my. How unhappy they were, driven away from home. Whatever would they do? Pluto just sat down and cried, but Trixie looked up at him and told him that at least they still had each other. Yes, they loved one another, and even with dogs, love can be a wonderful, wonderful thing. They just sat and looked into each other's eyes. All at once, they heard a sound that meant danger. It was a dripping sound. Water. They looked a little closer and saw where the sound was coming from. Big drops of water were falling into a puddle. Then they turned their heads up toward the top of the dike, and they saw what was happening. It was a terrible thing. There was a leak in the dike. Water was pouring through a hole that would get bigger and bigger if somebody didn't stop it. Just outside the dike, the ocean was trying to break through. Big waves were dashing against the stones. If the hole got bigger, all Holland would be flooded. Pluto and Trixie looked at each other. They were just dogs. What could they do? Then Trixie got an idea. She crawled up to the hole, and she put her paw in it, trying to hold the water back. Now, Pluto knew Trixie couldn't stay there very long because the hole was still getting bigger. Whatever could he do to save her? And Holland. Suddenly, he remembered something, and he started running back to town as fast as he could go. In the town, he ran straight for the dike alarm bell, the same one he and Trixie had rung by accident. He took hold of the bell rope, and he pulled and pulled. Again, the bell rang out all over the town. This certainly would arouse the people. In their wooden shoes, everybody in town came a-running. But they didn't say what Pluto expected.
It's that dumb Kopf of a dog again, making me his silly tricks yet. Oh, this was all I could stood already. This time we will teach him a lesson. Yeah, we spike him good. Catch him, somebody.
Poor Pluto. He knew he'd better hide.
Where was the vent?
Everybody, look around.
Yeah, and look sideways, too.
Pluto hid behind the fountain in the square, and oh, was he worried, because he knew what was happening to Trixie. Trixie was in trouble. The hole in the dike was getting bigger and bigger, and more water was leaking through. By this time, the people had stopped looking for Pluto, but he still had a big problem. How was he going to tell the people about the dike? All at once, he thought of a plan that just possibly might work out. He looked over toward the mayor's house. There was the mayor sitting in front of his house, puffing on a great big Dutch pipe, and that pipe was an important part of Pluto's plan. He took a great big jump with his mouth wide open, right for the middle of the mayor's pipe. And before the mayor even knew what happened, Pluto had bit the whole middle of the pipe away. And when the mayor realized what had occurred, oh, was he angry.
You just wait once. I am going to paddle you so hard you will be a hot dog with mustard.
But Pluto wasn't waiting. He was running as hard as he could, because he wanted the mayor to follow him. Pretty soon he came to a farmer milking a cow, and he jumped up and down right in the milk pail.
The milk dog. When I catch you, I will churn you like butter.
Pluto ran on, and soon he saw a man carrying 2 pails of milk Dutch style on a yoke across his shoulders. Right through the man's legs went Pluto, and right up in the air went the man.
Ach, du lieber Augustin, what goes? Ach, my feet was in my milk. Great idiot. Come back here.
Meanwhile, things were getting worse and worse for Trixie. She couldn't last much longer. Down the road by the dike, Pluto ran, barking to let Trixie know help was coming.
Reinhold, milk spoiler, pipe maker, bell ringer, raus mit you.
Yes, Pluto's plan was working. The whole town was right behind him. And when he got to where the water was leaking through, he barked and whined so the people would know what the trouble was. And when the people looked up, this is what they saw. Trixie, tail first in the hole. And oh, was Pluto glad to see her. He said, "Trixie, you saved Holland." All the people threw their hats in the air, and how they cheered.
3 cheers for Pluto!
6 cheers for Trixie!
Hooray! Hooray! And 7 more yet!
Well, next day, Pluto got his job back, and from then on, every morning, Trixie went with him on his milk route, just as proud can be. They're both heroes of the nation, and they're pointed out as such, for they saved the land of Holland on the day they got in Dutch. So now my story's ended, and I'm leaving for today. But before I start my voyage, there's one thing I'd like to say. There's a lesson in my story, a great truth for you and me. Do you think that you can find it? Talk it over, friends, and see. See you again.